Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales. These senior centers are amazing. Pool tables, beautiful scenery, lots of trees around, and these seniors have some of the best stories. We're so excited to share them with you. Ron, so tell us about your experience in the workforce. Where'd you start?
When I graduated from high school, my folks ran a grocery store, a small business, and they wanted me to take over the business, and I really wasn't interested in that. I did have an opportunity then to get a job at Pratt & Whitney on the third shift, and I worked there for 23 months, and I became very interested in manufacture of jet engines. And on the third shift, well, when I went to high school, I had a program that was geared toward sales. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that I wanted to learn more about jet engines. So I was working on the third shift in my second year there, and I had to take algebra, trigonometry, and another subject to be able to qualify to go to college. So after the second year doing all that and working on the third shift, I had a decision either to quit work or to quit college. So I decided I was going to quit work. I went to school for 3 years, and then I was activated in the Air National Guard. Mm-hmm. When they had the Berlin crisis.
Oh, wow.
And I spent a year over in France. And then when I came back, I had to continue my education and get a college degree and graduate. And I was fortunate at the time to be hired by Pratt & Whitney on a training program, which lasted for 20 months. And I continued on there for 39 years.
Wow.
So my whole work experience was at Pratt & Whitney as a quality engineer, and I really liked the job. It was very good. Then I retired in 2002, and when I retired, I decided I wanted to learn how to cook. So I went to Johnson & Wales University, and I went there on the continuing education program they had on Sundays, and I'd get up at 5 o'clock on Sunday morning, and I'd drive 80 miles to Providence, and we prepared 2 gourmet meals, a dinner and a supper. Mm-hmm. And I was back on the road at 7 o'clock in the evening and driving 80 miles back. And I did that for 3 years, and then I reached a point where I was faced with having to go to work again to get my degree, and I said, well, I've retired, so I stopped going there, and I then became a master gardener, and so I'm in the Master Gardening Association, and it's very interesting. We've started a club at the senior center here, grow vegetables and raised beds. It's good for the seniors.
Absolutely.
And then I became a trip planner, so here I am in my office at the senior center planning trips, and our planning department plans about 30 trips a year. Wow. And there's 5 of us, and we all take turns making trips. And those trips are very interesting. 2 days ago, we went on a cruise boat in Gloucester Harbor, and we had a buffet meal, and we had some DJ music, and some explanation of what we were looking at. And the seniors like trips like that. They like to go to summer theaters. We go to Hamden Beach to look at the sand castles. I take them to Yankee Stadium when the Red Sox played the Yankees. I've been doing that for 3 years. We're reaching a point in our planning where we've got a small group of trips that are so popular we just do the same trips every year. And one of them is going down to Long Island Sound and looking at 7 lighthouses and then going to a nice fish restaurant. And there's a restaurant called the AquaTurf that we like to go to, and they have entertainment and meals. And so there it is. That's my story.
Wow. So you never really retired.
No. Well, you keep active. That's all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of fun. It's rewarding. I enjoy it. Yeah. And we teach people how to do things. We have symposiums, and every other year we have a class where we accept people into the association. They go for 12 weeks in like the Hoyle Community College, and we get professors to come in from UMass, and they teach classes, and then at the end of that, all the people in the class have to volunteer 60 hours, and then they get to be master gardeners, which is just a name because you're never a master gardener because there's so much to learn that when you go through the courses, all you do is learn what you don't know.
That's true. Wow. So your advice for young people, you're never too old to learn something new?
That's right. You got to keep a moving target.
We have Tina and Bobby, and Tina's going to tell us about her work experience over the years.
Oh, that's okay.
So, Tina, what did you do?
Oh,
I did everything.
Where did you start?
I started when I was 16.
16? What did you do at 16?
After high school, when I got out, I worked with my mother in the card shop in Leeds.
Everything was saying.
Wow.
She had questions.
That must have been
Then I graduated high school. Then I went to work because I had to work. I went to work. First one was Loisel's drugstore. I went to work at J.C. Penney.
How did you like J.C. Penney?
I loved it.
Really? What did you love most about that job?
Waiting on people. I loved people, and I was honest when I showed them clothes. They can tell you now how I was.
Yeah, every 6
Many girls didn't like me because I was top sales, but I worked hard for my money. And thank God if it wasn't for pennies, I wouldn't have much of a social security. But I did it, and I survived another marriage.
Wow, good for you. During your work experience, what was the one job that really influenced you above all others?
Selling clothes,
Really?
waiting on people to see how nice they look. And well, I had one fella come that was, different. He was a guy, and he wanted a dress, and I said, well, what do you want a dress for? And he said, well, we're having a party. So of course, I got the most expensive one. And he said, thank you. And I said, would you need some shoes? And he said, yeah. So I brought them over. They got mad at me because they were on commission. But I said, hey, I started first. So then I said, would you like some jewelry too? So I went over, brought him over to the jewelry department. Those girls weren't happy, but that's okay.
He must have looked great when he left.
Oh, I had a big sales from him.
That's
But I had
fantastic.
to send him over to the men's department to try his dress on. I couldn't let him in the ladies' department.
Right.
So I get a call from the guys in the men's department saying, how dare you do that to us?
That's great.
But it was fun, and I enjoyed everybody I worked with. They were much younger than me, and they said, boy, we hope we're like you when we get your age.
How has the job at J.C. Penney changed since you worked there?
A lot.
Really?
Now you go into the stores, and it's different. There's no one there to help you.
Right, and you actually help pick out things and match hats and accessories.
I loved it.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And so tell us about your career. You worked at Spalding's.
Yes, I started in 1968. I was 18 years old, so that was my first full-time job. Prior to that, I did babysitting and I worked on a tobacco farm.
Wow. So what was Spalding's like?
When I first went to work there, it was a very busy place. There was over 1,000 employees, and they had 3 shifts. And it was really a good place to work. Then in 2003, they sold the Spalding name because prior to that, Spalding's did sporting goods and golf equipment, and they did the Top Flight brand was their golfing equipment. And in 2003, they sold the Spalding name and the inflatables to Russell Corporation out of Alabama, and so they took 50 of us Spalding employees from Chicopee, and we moved to Springfield, and we were there from 2003 to 2008 because the beginning of 2008, Russell Corporation sold out to Fruit of the Loom. So in 2008, Fruit of the Loom decided they were going to move all their operations to Bowling Green, Kentucky, from where they are. So that's after 40, I was actually employed for 40 years at Spalding, and then I had to start a new career.
Wow. What's it like working for a company for 40 years?
It was really good. When you first go to work there, you never think that you're going to be there that long, and then you reach a point where, oh yes, I'm going to end up retiring from there. So it was a disappointment to me when they moved out, and at 60 years old, it's not really easy to find another job, but I was fortunate. This small company in Wilbraham, it's a medical billing company. They did hire me, and I worked there 5.5 years until I decided to retire.
Wow, that's fantastic. What's one of your best memories from working at Spalding's? Were you involved in a lot of sports?
Actually, I'm not very athletic, but I did learn to play golf because I worked at Spalding, and I was in the ladies Spalding Golf League. But I think my favorite part is they had, because I do love the Red Sox, and they did have this athletic association, and we probably went to 3 or 4 games a year.
So what advice would you give large employers today?
I think appreciate their longtime employees, because I don't think that happens often enough.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like Spalding's was appreciative of their employees.
They were pretty much, but I think the times have changed, because I can remember my dad talking about if you're loyal to your company's loyal to you. But when they've decided to move out of state, it's.
Yeah, that makes it
They
hard.
I wouldn't have moved to Bowling Green anyways, but I wasn't given the opportunity either.
Wow. So what was one of your favorite experiences? Was it playing golf and getting to play on a league with women and a sport you...
Actually, I think my favorite experience, because also that athletic association, they also had trips, and we had a trip to Hawaii.
Oh, that must have been great.
And that was really, really a lot of fun.
Did you like Hawaii?
I did.
Was it beautiful?
Yes. You honestly feel like you're in a dreamland when you get off the plane.
Really? That's amazing.
It was. I had quite a few trips, because I went to Las Vegas for the first time with Spalding, and Bahamas. They had a lot of different trips, and because they booked it as a group, we got a decent rate.
That's great. Well, thanks for sharing so much about your work experience. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
And tell us about your work experience. What was one thing during your work career that really impacted your life?
Well, my work was, I was a nurse, and I worked in local hospitals throughout the country. Ended up here in Massachusetts. I worked at Bay State Medical Center. But I also worked here at the Chicopee Senior Center as the nurse. I was here a couple days a week. And what I saw here really impacted me, because I saw how vital the senior center was to people. They came here during the week and enjoyed themselves. And unlike people who worked, weekends were not fun for them because the senior center was closed. When people work, they like their weekends off.
Right.
And I saw the value of the senior center to seniors, how important it is to them. And I consequently have become a senior, and I volunteer here and do activities here also.
Wow. And all that from your nursing career. How did your nursing career start?
After school, I went to nursing school. That was back in the 50s. There wasn't a lot to pick from. You had to have money to go to college, and I didn't. It was easier to go to a nursing school, and that's where I ended up.
Wow. And how long was nursing school in the 50s?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah. We spent 1 year at a college, a local college, and then 2 years at the hospital. We did affiliations in New York City and in Marcy, New York. So it was an interesting education.
It must have been an interesting experience as a young woman. Suddenly you're traveling to a new state like New York. Were there any experiences from then that you remember?
Well, especially in New York City, because I came from the country.
Mm-hmm.
And going to New York City and spending 3 months down there was really a lot of fun. It was back in the 50s when it was a little more quiet than it is right now, but I enjoyed it down in New York. Going to the plays on Broadway, going to the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, absolutely. Tell me, were there any patients that you remember more than others?
Yes, there was one especially that I remembered. In 1959, I was working at the New England Baptist Hospital in Boston, Massachusetts, and we had a patient, Mr. K.
Mr. K?
Mr. K. We were told to call him Mr. K. It was John Kennedy.
Wow.
And he was a patient on our unit. It was in 1959, and when he was in for different tests, and he wasn't ill, but he was just in for monitoring. And at the time, we said, they're grooming him for president. And the next year, he ran for president.
Wow, that must have been exciting.
It was nerve-wracking.
Really? What did you guys think when he did finally run for president?
Well, I didn't work there that year. I had resigned and moved on. So I was surprised. I was delighted to have taken care of him, too.
Be our president. That's fantastic. Yeah. Wow. Were there any other interesting characters that you met along the way?
Well, there was one. I had a classmate that worked with us, too, and she had Ted Williams on her unit, and she actually had gone out to dinner with him.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's true. All those love stories where the patient falls in love with the nurses. There's romance in the hospitals. A lot of times they were just very happy to have us. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to forget about it. In fact, I have a classmate that I just happened to tell her a few years ago, and I've been out of nursing like 60 years. And she says, "You never told me that."
Marianne, thanks for joining us. So we want to know what your work experience was like and where you started.
Okay. Well, my first job was as a nursing assistant. I worked at Springfield Hospital, and then I worked at Montgomery. And then someone recommended Adult Day Health. It was a brand new program. So I was really excited to be doing something like that. So I worked there, and then one day my boss came to me and asked if I would consider being the volunteer coordinator. So that was very exciting, and I thought, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. So I learned. It was really great, and I had a lot of support. So I did that job, and I loved it for a few years, and then I was promoted to activity director at the Holyoke Geriatric Authority, and I loved that job. I worked there for many years. And the people were wonderful there. I still meet people here at the senior center that I worked with at that in Holyoke. So it's really awesome. Loved working. Met so many people. Never felt like work.
Wow, that's great. So is that your best advice to young people? Find something that you love to do and
Really
enjoy?
are passionate about. Sometimes it's a surprise. I had never looked for that job and found me. So, you just have to be open to things and to learn everything that you can about what you enjoy.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Happy Labor Day. So, Bob, tell us about your work career. Where did you start out?
Well, I primarily started off in retail. I was a store manager for an old chain called Steiger's.
Oh, really?
So I did that for a while, and then I decided to go back to school and get my accounting degree. And after I did that, I went into banking, and I was in banking for over 35 years and retired as a banker.
Wow. What was banking like when you started?
It was less complicated.
Really?
Yeah, when I left, there were a lot of legal issues, a lot of regulatory things going on, and it just got too complicated and too convoluted.
So looking back, what advice would you give young people that are getting into the banking field?
Oh boy. Be ready to work a lot of hours,
Really?
because it's it's no longer, like they used to call banking hours, 9 to 2 or 9 to 3. It's my day was, I would be in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would leave probably at 6 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And there's also weekends. So it's just, because of the electronic age, customers have access to banking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And obviously when things go wrong, somebody's got to be there to fix it. So, you got to be willing to work the hours.
What do you do now?
Right now I'm working for the city of Chicopee in the transportation department. I've been here for a couple of years, 20 hours a week, which is perfect. And I help, arrange rides for people to go to doctor's appointments, and they also come here, and things like that.
Wow. So the city of Chicopee helps with transportation for seniors so that they can go from the senior center or their homes?
Yep. We pick up people at home and bring them here. And then typically, people have different schedules. Sometimes they just come here to exercise. Sometimes they come here to exercise and have lunch. And then we take them home after that. So, the majority of the people have different needs.
Right.
So we try to accommodate those needs. And we also take people from their home to doctor's appointments, medical appointments, things like that.
Wow. And I saw on the schedule there's grocery shopping, there's travel.
Yep. We're just about to get into grocery shopping and things like that. Pioneer Valley Transit Association has just had a huge budget cut, and there's a big void out there, so we're trying to fill that void.
It's fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing your work experience with us this Labor Day.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Carol. Thanks for joining us. So you promised to share a little bit about your work history with us.
I used to work at Westover Air Reserve Base,
Really?
military and civilian.
You were military and civilian?
I was yes.
What branch of the military were you in?
439th Air Medevac Squadron. I was admin. I wasn't a nurse or a med tech. I worked with all the nurses and med techs.
Wow.
They were fabulous.
Really? What was your best memories from that time period?
When I went on annual tours and I went on some of the flyaways with them and assisted them and stuff like that. It was nice.
Wow. How long did you do that?
Well, I was in the Air Force Reserve for 20 years, and I was activated for Desert Storm I just worked in the office.
Oh, that's good. At least you're in the office.
Yeah. Yeah, they needed us, it's like somebody had to do it, so.
Absolutely. So what impacted you most about having a military career?
I enjoyed it, that's all.
Really? Did you have to move a lot?
No.
No? You were able to be at Westover for most of your career?
Yeah, because active duty people are the ones that get reassigned and whatnot.
Oh, that's good to know. So the reserves, you don't get reassigned?
No, you just work, it's just 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year.
Oh, that's great. Any advice for young people that are interested in the military reserves today?
Don't hesitate to join the reserve, at least the reserves, because you're only obligated for 1 weekend a month.
Right.
Active duty, well, there's a little more to it. That's an everyday thing.
Right.
So, if you're not sure, at least join the reserves. And if you decide to become active, well, you can go from there. That's all.
That's great advice. Mr. Brody, what is the one thing in your work history that really impacted you?
I think World War II and the Navy influenced me to become an electrician. Later on in life, I had a change and I became a machinist. But World War II and the Navy influenced me the most to pursue a career.
When you were in the Navy, did you travel?
Quite a bit.
Did you go overseas?
Yeah.
Where were you stationed overseas?
Well, we were mostly off of a submarine. We had a submarine chaser that followed us around. We very seldom went on land.
Wow.
I was in Japan for a while, Kuri Naval Base in Japan.
Wow, that must have been an amazing experience.
It was. But the most amazing was Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What a terrible wreck that was.
I'll bet. Were you close to that when it happened?
Well, a little while afterward, they took us on a tour of a truck. Terrible thing.
Must have been horrifying. What do you remember most about the Navy?
Some of the good times are hard to forget, but there's a lot of things that you remember.
Really? What were some of the best times?
Hard to recall, along with the bad and the good.
Wow. So it started you off as an electrician, and then you went into machinist?
Yeah.
Wow. And how many years did you work as a machinist?
20.
20? Wow. What was, were there any changes in the machinist industry that really influenced your work? That made it easier or harder?
There was always somebody to help you out. When you started out, there's always somebody to help you.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
No problem. Can I ask you one question?
Absolutely.
How old do you think I am?
Not supposed to say. So 70s?
92.
You're 92?
That's bad.
Wow, you look great.
Thank you.
What's your secret for staying young up until 92?
Marry a good woman.
Marry a good woman? That is good advice. Thank you so much.